Hey guys, my name's Jessica. I'm taking over Jevell's channel today because I had a great idea that I'm going to bake my way through the Great British Baking Show. I'm a huge fan and I love baking. I love being in the kitchen. So today I'm starting with season 1 and it's cake week. And so today I'm going to make a Swiss roll cake. That was our first challenge. So I'm using the recipe from Sally's Baking Addiction. And I'm just going to go through it. Alright, so right now I'm cutting my parchment paper and fitting it to my 12 by 17 pan. This is one step I'm not good at precision in regards to cutting. But I'm using Sally Baking Addiction Swiss roll cake recipe. And basically, I'm just going to go through the recipe with you guys, see how it turns out. This is what it's going to look like, or should look like. Holy cow. So I have all my majority of my supplies here for the cake, and then we'll have to make the whipped cream, but I'm going to do that later once the cake cools, because the cake has to cool completely. So that's what I'm doing right now. So I'll check back in with you guys when I start putting all the ingredients together. First things first, we are going to separate the eggs into different bowls. So we have to put egg whites in one bowl, the egg yolks in another bowl. Okay, so first I'm going to separate the eggs. I don't really have a nifty way of doing this. I just kind of separate it with my hands. I know some people might get grossed out by this. But we have to separate the egg yolks and the eggs. So there's one. And then what we're going to do is we're basically going to whip the egg whites with a 1/3 cup of sugar to create like these the thick peaks for the cake batter. I figured I'd do the egg whites in the stand mixer and then I do the rest of everything in different bowls because that has to whip for a while, so it's a little easier in the stand mixer. And last one, we use 4 egg yolks and 4 egg whites. Ooh, close call. Now, we're going to take a 1/3 cup of sugar. Make sure it's all level. Pour that on here. And then we are going to put this, this is our nifty little stand mixer. Gotta plug this puppy in. And then attach the whisk attachment. This is the attachment that you want. Okay, so we whisk this for about 5 minutes or until you get these like soft peaks. See that? So now I'm going to take the whisk out and this sits there until we're ready for it. So now we're going to move on to the egg yolk mixture. So we're going to do, in another bowl, beat egg yolks, brown sugar. So 4 egg yolks, 1/3 cup brown sugar packed. So make sure it's packed pretty tight in there. 1/3 cup. Okay, plop that in there. Great. So egg yolks, brown sugar, and vanilla extract. I usually don't measure my vanilla extract, but I'll do that today. Okay. Then we're gonna whisk with this guy. Now, somehow, one of our little whisks went missing, so we're just gonna do one and pray for the best. And we mix until it just looks like a creamy mixture and it's all combined. So next we're gonna sift a 1/2 cup of flour, cocoa powder, baking powder, basically all the dry ingredients. But one of my great friends taught me a trick. When you measure your flour in one of these measuring cups, you're supposed to kind of break it up with a spoon because it levels everything out. So that's what I'm doing now.
As you have a fork.
I meant fork. I'll credit Tyler Dixon on this one. Okay, so 1/2 cup of all-purpose flour. Great. 3 tablespoons of baking powder. When I say baking powder, I meant cocoa powder. Please don't use 3 tablespoons of baking powder. And we want want to level those out too. 1. Ooh. Made a mess. 2. Three. Great. And we're gonna add our baking powder, which is gonna be 1 teaspoon. We're adding 1 teaspoon of baking powder. Boom. And then a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. I never, when it's just a pinch of salt, I never measure it out, so I'm just gonna put a little dollop. Okay, now we sift. So we just go through, sift this out, make sure all the clumps are out and it's all smooth. And then whenever I get these little crummies right here, I take a spoon and I try to make sure I get all of that. Great, so that's done. Okay, so we sift the flour into a large bowl. Now we pour melted butter and coffee and egg yolk mixture. So we're gonna pour this. We're gonna pour the coffee. Make sure I get all the butter. Great.
What type of coffee was it?
I used just the Nespresso brew coffee, just what we had at
was
the
it
house.
How much was it of coffee?
1 tablespoon. And then I'm gonna pour this over the dry ingredients too. So I'm gonna get my rubber spatula. Oops. Make sure I get all this stuff. Okay. And then once I do that, then I beat everything together until smooth. So this is what it's gonna look like. It doesn't look like a lot because we're gonna fold in the egg whites, and that's what's gonna make it a little fluffy and more cake-like. So I'm about to do that, fluffy egg whites. And basically what I'm gonna do, so fluffy egg whites cake mixture, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a scoop of my fluffy egg whites, I'm gonna fold. So the way I fold is I just literally fold the mixture together, and you don't want to overfold, you just want to fold until combined. And I cut and I fold, and I cut and I fold. Alright, so here's the mixture. This is, see how it got way fluffier. It's supposed to be really light. I didn't want to overmix so I wouldn't deflate the egg whites. So now I'm going to pour it into this guy that's lined with parchment paper, and it will be a very thin layer. It's supposed to be a thin sheet cake. Okay, so I want to make sure I get every little driplet out. So I use my rubber spatula. I preheated the oven to 350, and now I'm going to bake for 10 minutes or until the top of the cake gently springs back when touched with your finger. Do not over bake. So our oven's a little temperamental, so I'm going to actually set my timer for 5 minutes, and then I'm going to check back just to make sure I do not over bake. Okay, done. Hey Google, set timer for 5 minutes.
Okay, 5 minutes. Starting now.
Thank you. The next step is right after it gets out of the oven. Got dishes after this. So roll the cake. As the cake bakes, place a piece of parchment paper larger than the cake on a thin kitchen towel flat on the counter. Okay, got my kitchen towel. Looks like that should be large enough. I'm going to do a kitchen towel because I have done a rolled cake before, and I did it with a kitchen towel and it worked. So I'm going to do with what I worked with, or what worked for me. But you can do parchment paper too. I'm I'm sprinkling the towel with a little cocoa powder.
Okay.
I think it's to just coat the cake. Dump it onto this towel. Okay, phew. Okay. Oh, turn the oven off. Okay. And we're gonna remove this parchment paper. Hopefully it doesn't stick. No, don't stick. Come on. Okay, that's okay. A little stick is fine. Just not chunks. No chunks. Not bad. Then we're gonna roll it.
So you're rolling the towel onto the...
Yes, and this is how it's gonna cool. Will you roll this? Oh, no, never mind. And it's gonna cool in a roll. Yep. That is perfect. Look at how cute that little guy is. Okay. So now I'm gonna put the roll in the fridge. All right, so I just threw the cake in the fridge. Next thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna let it cool about 2 to 3 hours. I'm gonna clean the kitchen, maybe watch a little Real Housewives, and then I'm going to come back and then we'll start the whipped cream and we'll make the ganache and finish the cake. So I'll check back in with you in a few hours. Okay, so we are back. It's been about 3 hours. This is our sweet little guy. He was in the fridge. He's cooling now, so we can't unravel him just yet, but we will in a little bit. But we're gonna make the whipped cream now. So we're gonna use 1 cup heavy whipping cream, 3 tablespoons of sugar, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. The recipe also calls for optional 2 tablespoons of marshmallow fluff, but I said no go. So basically what you're gonna do is just pour everything into the blender, into your stand mixer if you have one, if not just your handheld, and then you're going to whip it all and it will create like a whipped cream. Okay, so now 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Boom. Okay, so here's the whipped cream. Looks pretty normal. And then now's the moment of truth. We're gonna unroll our sweet little cake. Gotta be gentle. Spread our, and it says leave like about a 1/2 inch border. So now I'm just gonna spread this. We're gonna roll it without the towel. Okay, and then it says place on a wire rack. Well, we don't have a wire rack because we're gonna pour ganache all over it. So I'm just gonna put it on this guy, and then I'm gonna put it here for when I put ganache on it, and now I'm gonna make the ganache. Okay, so it says place chopped chocolate. This is just semi-sweet baking chocolate. I just gave it a rough chop. Okay, so it's 1 teaspoon of semi-sweet baking chocolate, and I just gave it a rough chop. And you combine that with 1 teaspoon, which is optional, of corn syrup, but it creates like a glossy finish for the ganache. So I kind of like the look of a glossy ganache. Yeah, 1/2 cup of heavy whipping cream. And I'm gonna heat it in this little pan. Now I'm gonna heat this to a light simmer. It's a 1/2 cup of heavy whipping cream, not a boil. So we're gonna, our stove is weird. So after that starts to simmer, we're gonna pour it over the ganache and let it sit on the ganache for about 2 to 3 minutes. And then we'll stir it up and break up any of the chocolate and get it all melty and yummy. And then we're gonna pour it over the cake. Okay, now I'm just gonna pour it over the chocolate. Okay, so basically now I'm gonna let that sit in there for 2 to 3 minutes, and then I'm gonna give it a stir. Okay, now I'm gonna stir. Ooh, Ooh, there we go. Ooh, yeah. That is a good ganache. Should be drippy, it's shiny. Pour ganache all over the cake. Now, if that doesn't look like a Hostess Swiss roll, I don't know what does. Okay, so now I'm gonna put it in the fridge. IT, moment of truth. Oh, oh. If I don't drop it first.
Oh, looks good.
Okay. I will cut it open so we can see the swirl. So there's the finished product. Maybe what I'll do is I'll have Jevell taste it tonight, and he can give you guys his review.
Oh yeah, that looks good, guys. Wow.
And the ganache came out super shiny, which I love. All right, rating 10 out of, or 0 to 10.
Well, you almost gave me 10 out of 10. I can't go nowhere. I'm gonna get this a 9. This is fire. I really like the cream. The cream is a 10, and it's only not a 10 for me because I don't like chocolate like that. But I obviously like it enough to finish this. Alright guys, make sure you check out this YouTube video. Leave a comment, like and subscribe, and I'm sure Jessica's going to be back more with cooking and baking. Alright guys, we'll see you on the next one. Peace.
Alright guys, thanks for tuning in. This was the first of many Great British Baking Show tries. And clearly I have a lot of dishes to do, so I'm going to get on doing to that. And we'll see you in the next video. Peace. Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name's Jessica. Together we are